I am AFT tonight.
I've been waiting for to change that middle name, the middle initial. For you, so, yeah,
Yeah, you brought it up last night, or not last night, last time. So I don't know if you remember, but anyway, just having a little fun.
absolutely, man. Let me do something here. Make sure that just double check and make sure that we are indeed live, and it looks like we are.
Awesome.
So, for those of you in the listening audience, if you're watching this via YouTube, make sure that you click like and subscribe, and also, you know, click like and comment because that helps the algorithm. If you're watching on Facebook, like and share, comment. We got the chat open up, and also if you want to chime in, we can put the link out there and all of that good stuff. But anyway, this is the last show of 2023, my brother.
It is. Yes, it is.
Yep. So, with that being said, what is in the glass?
I have something different tonight. I have an amaretto sour. So
Oh, snap. That sounds good.
yeah. So for people that don't know, it's amaretto, sweet and sour mix, and Sprite.
Okay. Yeah, I love amaretto sours.
I do too.
Yeah, one of my favorite. So today I'm going easy because we and my background won't let me show this, but it's Blackstone Merlot.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Very very drinkable. My
Mhm.
sommelier recommended it to me.
All right.
Yeah. So anyway, today we have a great topic as we always do. So Aaron, I'm going to kick it over to you to kick off the topic.
Well, like you said, it's the last show of 2023. God, can you believe that?
Well,
2023 is coming to an end. It's just crazy. So that means it's New Year's, right? New Year's weekend.
yep.
And so I thought we could talk about New Year's resolutions. Are they helpful or are they harmful? And I think a case can be made for both. I looked at some interesting statistics just to set it up. Um, Only 9% of people surveyed follow through on their New Year's resolution. 9%.
9%.
Um, yeah. And then Forbes put out a list this week where they asked people what their New Year's resolutions were, and it came down to three categories. The top one was fitness and health.
Hmm.
The second one was financial improvement. Shocker there. That was about 67, 68%.
Hmm.
And then the rest of it was to improve your mental health.
Mm.
So kind of interesting. I think 60 some percent said they want to improve health and fitness. And of course, in that group is I want to lose weight, I want to exercise more, I want to eat better, I want to quit, whatever.
Yep.
Um, but can they also be harmful? So interesting psychological data here, and then I'll kick it back to you. But if only 9% of people follow through, and something like 23% quit in the first week,
Yeah.
what does that do to a person psychologically to set goals for themselves and then fail to accomplish those goals? And if they do that year after year after year.
Ooh.
So it can actually be harmful in the sense that you can begin to get a negative view of yourself, and your ability to achieve, your ability to accomplish what you want to accomplish and stuff like that. So if you set a New Year's resolution and you're not resolute about following through with it,
Right.
then it can actually lead to negative feelings, negative emotions, negative thoughts, things like that about yourself because you set goals for yourself that you failed to achieve and follow through on.
Well, that is a good setup. And 9%. I was thinking that it would be at least 10%.
Yeah, at least 16,
But
17.
and I forget at what level something becomes statistically significant,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I was thinking, 10%, but it's actually lower. And one of the things that I've learned about New Year's resolutions, and this is my take on it, that if I make a resolution and I don't follow through with it,
Hmm.
it's kind of demoralizing.
Right.
It's discouraging.
Hmm.
And especially if I set the same goal year after year, like you mentioned, and it doesn't come to pass.
Yeah.
And so I've one of the conclusions that I've come to is that you can do one of two things with New Year's resolutions. One is don't make them at all.
Right.
Just simply live your life, que sera, sera, as you normally would. And I think that in doing that, you will get just as good, if not better, results than if you made resolutions. But there's a but there because, I'm like Sir Mix-a-Lot. I like big butts and I cannot lie. And this is a big but. That if you make a resolution, start well before New Year's.
Mm.
Now, this is something that I've done, and I don't have like hard data,
Hmm.
but I can talk about success and that I'm way more successful if I set my resolution, like say in September.
Hmm.
Because if I do that, then basically I build a ramp into the new year.
Yeah, I like that.
And building that ramp, now I can say, okay, what are the stepwise approaches that I can make to getting to, I'm sorry, something funny in the background. uh, if you take a stepwise approach to your goals, and again, you want like SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. SMART goals. You want to make them smart, but at the same time, what you want to do is you want to say, okay, I'm not going to eat the elephant all at once. I'm going to eat it one bite at a time. So I'm going to take my time, build a ramp, and work my way into it. If you do that, I've found, and this is me, you have much better success with your resolutions because you're more likely to keep them. Why? Because you're actually setting a paradigm for the habit that you're trying to build.
Hmm.
So that's one of the things that that I've done to
Yeah.
try to be more successful. Now, the other thing is that when you are making a resolution, you have to say, okay, can I realistically get this done?
Right.
Can I make this happen? And I don't think that a lot of people ask themselves that question realistically. Can I do this? Can I actually make this happen? And when you, like, for example, if you're like, let me just use myself for an example, right? I'm 6'1" and about 255 pounds. If I say next year I'm going to dunk a basketball, that's not a realistic goal.
Right.
And no matter what I put into it stepwise, you know, maybe there's a possibility that I could lose enough weight, build enough muscle, and develop the agility to actually do it. But I'm not going to do it consistently. This is something that I may accomplish once, and may have killed myself in the process.
Yeah.
So you have to look at what is it that you're setting out to do, and can you actually accomplish it? But I want to change gears for a second, right? Because you said, okay, are New Year's resolutions helpful or harmful? And I think that for people who are not accustomed to setting goals, I think New Year's resolutions are absolutely harmful. Because in order for you to make a resolution and stick to it, you actually have to have some idea of how to set a goal and track it, right? That if you think about it uh, in a business sense, where you're building a Gantt chart, right? So you have time slices, and then you have a bar chart that tracks how much time you spend on different activities toward the achievement of the goal. And at each one of these intersections, you have milestones, right? And then in addition to milestones, you might have a deliverable that says, okay, that the milestone says I'm going to do this many reps of say sit-ups by this date, and then you say, okay, now the next thing that I want to do is I want to do a hanging leg raise by this point. So that's a deliverable. The deliverable is based on the achievements and the milestone. But again, if you're not accustomed to setting goals, then New Year's resolutions can be harmful because you keep going through this exercise of trying, and you never succeed, and so it becomes demoralizing. And the other thing is that you've done this so many times, you have so many iterations of this, and you can actually psych yourself out into really believing, hey, I can't, and you know what they say, that if you think you can, you might. If you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal. But if you are a consistent goal setter, if you make lists, if you make to-do lists, and if you journal and all of these other things, and you're setting goals, you're in the mode, you're in the mindset of setting goals on a regular basis, then actually a New Year's resolution can actually be helpful,
Hmm.
because now you understand a stepwise approach to success. You understand how to read the map from here to there,
Hmm.
and by doing this, now you can say, okay, yeah, this is in the realm of the doable, and you go ahead and you knock it out. But to your point about whether they're hurtful or harmful, the short answer to that is it depends. It depends on the person, and it depends on the goal, right? Because that's another thing. People make unrealistic goals.
Hmm.
So, say for example, you want to lose weight. So let's say you want to lose weight in 2024. And let's say, okay, I want to lose 25 pounds in 2024. Well, that's roughly like like 2.1 pounds per month, right? And that is an achievable goal. I mean, there are some people, they can lose a pound a week. So 2 pounds in a month is not difficult.
Hmm.
And so, but at the end of the year, you could say, hey, I've actually succeeded in achieving this goal,
Hmm.
right? So that's the thing. You want to make things realistic. You want to make it within. And this is the other thing. I'm going to say this and I'll shut up. Is that in order to um, get in the mindset of goal setting, uh, goal processing, goal tracking, goal achievement, give yourself small steps, and celebrate the milestones of the small steps. Because if you can do that, then yeah, it would absolutely help you. Ben is asking, are those cicadas? And this time of the year, no, I'm actually not sure what that background noise
Yeah.
is.
I heard it a couple weeks ago. I don't know what it is either. Um, and they just went away.
Yeah, I'm in a different location, so
Right
I
on.
yeah.
Right on time. Wrong time of year anyway for that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's funny because we haven't ever really talked about this topic. I don't think we've ever, maybe we have done other episodes around New Year's where it's been on New Year's resolutions, but we think very similar. It's another thing where we think very much the same way. Um, it's funny because you said you start your New Year's resolutions like in September, and you give yourself a ramp,
Hmm.
into the new year. I start my New Year's resolution January 1, but I don't go out and attack it usually. And I've fulfilled a lot of mine, but I don't go out and attack it with action January 2nd usually. My
Yeah,
my New Year's resolutions usually kick in about March, to be honest with you.
yeah,
But what I do in January, and this is just me, is I start um, reading and putting my attention on what it is that I want to accomplish. So if it's I want to increase my income, then I'm going to focus on reading about that. If it's
yeah,
I want to lose weight, I'm going to focus on, health journals and um, stuff. And what I've noticed is by putting my attention on it, by just giving my attention to it daily, I remember one time it was finances and just subscribing to like a financial empowerment blog or something
hmm,
and reading that short little blog, every day. I made a commitment to that. I'd read 5 or 10 minutes on it. And, you know, by March, it kicks in. You think I would have been smart enough to figure out to start this in September? And then the second thing I was going to say was that you have to have a plan
Yeah.
and measurable. You brought that up. It has to be, measurable, because if you don't measure it, you don't have the feedback to
Exactly.
either encourage yourself or give yourself a swift kick in the butt. Right.
Right.
Um, so, but I'm going to make the case for why I think New Year's resolutions can be good. So
Yeah.
the number one reason, according to, psychologists, that people do not accomplish their New Year's resolutions is they lack the motivation for change. And motivation for change is a really interesting thing, because as human beings, more often than not, we will tolerate something until it goes past a certain pain threshold
Mm.
for us to not be able to tolerate it anymore. So we all know, that we eat things we shouldn't, drink things, consume things that we shouldn't. That's not optimal for our health. I'll put it that way. Not shouldn't, but that's not optimal for the perfect functioning body, right? We're
Right.
not professional athletes. But have a minor heart attack, go to the doctor and, get a scary diagnosis, and you're jumping on that change. A lot of people
Yep.
that afternoon, you know, um, I'm going to, slight heart attack. I'm going to bring my blood pressure down.
Yep.
I'm going to get my weight off. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to avoid things that are bad for my heart. You could have been doing that all along, is my point.
Yeah.
Or, you're content at a certain financial level, and then something happens, you lose a job, inflation kicks your butt. Who knows, right?
Yep.
So then immediately you start putting your resume together. Like, you could have been looking for a better paying job 6 months ago and could have gotten it 6 months ago. But now the pain threshold's there. In other words, most people wait for a unpleasant life event, or, like I said,
Yeah.
they tolerate something until it gets to the point that they can't tolerate it anymore. Or you could even look at it this way. There has to be something significant for you to have a marker for change in your life.
Right.
So you lost a spouse early on in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Very emotionally significant event. And so I'm sure, at least for a period of time in your life, there was before that happened and after that happened, or before she got sick and after she got sick. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Interesting thing, when the lockdowns and stuff happened in 2020, psychologists were saying we probably won't remember a lot about the lockdowns. We'll remember having to wear masks, having to stay home, having to work from home, but the days will all kind of blend together,
Mm-hmm.
because there's nothing else significant to mark. And we even do it collectively: before the shutdown, after the shutdown, before
Yep.
COVID, after COVID, before 9/11, after 9/11. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So if I were to ask somebody, or if I were to ask you, Derrick, what did you have to eat December 1st, 2017? Or in September, you mentioned September 12th. What did you wear that day? What did you watch on TV?
Mm-hmm.
Like, most of us can't answer that, because emotionally significant events create markers in our brains. So whether we like it or not, we think on a timeline. We think past, present, future. It's very linear in the way that we think. So you have to have signposts.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Milestones.
To remember something, or to kind of make a change. So anybody that's made a change, a significant change, they can mark the day that happened, pretty much, or at least the general time frame. Like, for me, talked about it all the time on this show and on other stuff that I've done. It was August 13th, 2016. I had Paul on the road to Damascus in reverse.
Yeah.
And the scales fell from my eyes, right? And that started me on a journey that brought about significant change in my life.
Yep.
So the advantage, I think, in the case I would make for New Year's resolutions, is that it can become one of those markers for us if we use it correctly and do it correctly, where we say, okay, there we know there's absolutely nothing magical about um, the ball falling in New York City or whatever that marks the change from one year to the next. But it does give us a little bit of a marker, if you see what I'm saying, to say, okay, next year is going to be different than this year, and then we can channel our willpower, our attention, our desire, that kind of thing, towards a change that we know we probably could have made sooner without having to wait for something to happen to us. So for me, it's the difference between living life and life happening to us. You see what I'm saying? So that's my case for New Year's resolutions.
No, you know, and I'm actually with you on that. I think that there's a better case for them than against them. Uh, I think that, let me say this. I had said something before, and I'm going to walk it back just a little bit. I said that if you're not a good goal setter, if you're not accustomed to setting goals, that you probably shouldn't set New Year's or make New Year's resolutions. And I'm going to walk that back just a little bit because I think that a good New Year's resolution would be to say, first of all, like let's set a meta goal, right? A goal about a goal, and that meta goal would be, I'm going to track what I do better. I'm going to make milestones, or I'm going to make a memory about these different things so that I get in the habit of chronicling things, tracking things, and that way I can easily reverse engineer where I am, right? So you make a good case for why we should make New Year's resolutions, because the only reason why you shouldn't, the only reason why you shouldn't is if you absolutely suck at making goals. But the flip side to that is that a New Year's is a good time to say, okay, this year I'm going to be better about setting goals. I
Yeah,
mean, in other words, don't set a goal other than I'm going to set goals.
I
I'm
like
going
that.
to I'm going to take small slices of time and say that within these time slices, I'm going to accomplish X, Y, and Z, right? And then what you're doing is you're getting in the habit of making habits. You're getting in the habit of making goals. And then you're getting in the habit of chronicling your progress toward a goal. And what happens is that now you've basically set a paradigm for what goal setting should look like for you.
Hmm.
Because this is important. Goal setting is not going to be the same for everyone. It's not going to work the same for everyone. Some people work good with say a protocol,
Hmm.
right? Whereas some people work better with a heuristic. It's, in other words, I have a loose interpretation of where I want to be, and some people have a strict interpretation. And so what you have to do is you have to kind of learn yourself and what works for you. What do you respond to? So this is my recommendation: is I would look at, like, say, starting the new year. If you start off saying, okay, well, I suck at setting goals. I'm not a goal setter. I'm not a good planner. I'm not a good journaler. So you say, okay, for the next 30 days, not for the whole year, but for the next 30 days, I'm going to be better about chronicling what I do, what I eat, what I drink, what my activity, my mobility is, what things do I want to accomplish today, this week, this month, and start tracking that. And then basically you're writing this down. You're writing this down. You're writing what I want to do, how am I going about doing it, how am I tracking it, and when and how is this accomplished. And so at the end of the month, you'll have a pretty good idea of what works for you. Because again, everybody's goal setting is going to be different. Like your goals may be meta goals, and they may be broader, they may be less well defined, or yours may be really anal retentive. They may be very to the very picky you in detail, and you have to find out what works for you. But if you don't, let me just say this, that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Yep.
So you have to actually start. So if you, for a New Year's resolution, just simply say, I'm going to do something. And you can start as small as, I'm going to do this tomorrow, or I'm going to do this today.
Hmm.
You can start with something, a time slice that small, and you can say, okay, I said I was going to do this tomorrow. I did it. How did I do it? How did I accomplish this? Okay, so now let's string together a series of victories. Let's do this iteratively for like maybe 2 or 3 days and see how that works. And then let's do a week, and let's do a couple of weeks. Let's do a month. And what you'll find is that over time, you'll start getting better. And what's going to happen is you'll get so well defined in your understanding of goal setting and goal accomplishment that you won't have to make resolutions. I mean, basically, you will learn to make resolutions on the fly. And
Hmm.
that's where that goes back to my September theory, right? Because now you could say, if I want to accomplish a certain goal by this time, if I'm starting on it in small chunks here, what I'm doing is I'm building a ramp up to that. And every time you're building a ramp, you ramp up to that, to success at that point. And then what you do is you build another ramp from there to the next thing. And it's incremental steps, baby steps until you get to the next plateau. And that's the other thing too. So this is another part about goal setting, about New Year's resolutions, is that it's easy to plateau. You get to a point and you say, okay, I've accomplished this, and now I'm just holding serve. I'm making sure the store doesn't burn down, and I'm not accomplishing anything more. Well, if you're building a ramp with every step, that is the easiest way to overcome plateauing,
Hmm.
because now you're not going to get stuck. You're going to say, okay, I got here. This is great. So now what is the ramp? What is the next thing that I want to accomplish? And what is the ramp from here to there? So think of everything as, a ramp, a plateau, a ramp, a plateau, a ramp, and think of your life as constantly growing, that you're constantly adding on to your goal setting, to your dream building, or whatever it is, and until you get proficient at it. And I think, I mean, let me say this. First of all, I'm not speaking from a perspective of perfection. Like,
Right.
I've just got this down cold. All I'm saying is that, when I look back, I reverse engineer or replay the events of my life, and I say, when I was successful at a thing, this is always a hallmark of how I was successful,
Hmm.
right? So,
Yeah, I love the metaphor of the ramp because momentum is important, right? Sometimes we plateau because we lose momentum,
yep,
and we don't realize how important momentum is. But I would say, it all comes down to motivation. And, like, I work at a university, right? So I have kids all the time that, I can't seem to make myself go to all my classes. I don't want to study, et cetera, and so on.
yep,
And they'll, beat up on themselves while I'm lazy, blah, blah, blah. I don't really believe in that. I believe in a lack of motivation. I don't think anybody's lazy. I think people that are quote unquote lazy lack motivation, right?
that's a good point.
I think people who don't accomplish goals or resolutions lack the motivation. So everybody's motivated differently by different things. It has to do with your value system. So if you pick a resolution or a goal, especially when we're talking about personal change, that doesn't fit with what motivates you,
Yep,
you're going to have a hard time accomplishing that resolution because you're going to have a hard time even getting started on it, right?
yep,
So I think it's important, like, you can't cookie cut this thing when it comes to motivation. You have to know your own personal values. Some people value uh, money more than time, for
yep,
example. Um, some people value, I don't know, I need a relationships more than significance.
hmm
You know, so if you're a person who you value your relationships at home and with your family more than you value significance on the job, let's say, then becoming a CEO probably isn't for you.
yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
And so you got to figure out what makes you tick. And it's amazing how many people don't even know, what makes them tick. But the two basic things about motivation that motivates every human being is pain and pleasure.
Mm.
Basic, right?
Yep.
We're wired to avoid pain for the most part, unless we're getting secondary benefits off of our pain, and then
Yeah.
that's another discussion. But we're
Yes.
motivated to we're motivated to avoid pain, pursue pleasure. That can be a real problem for Christians, by the way, because they reverse that. They
That's
reverse
a whole
it. They make
sermon
a
right there.
virtue. They make a virtue out of sacrifice and self-sacrifice and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so if you can do any kind of forecasting in your mind, any kind of future pacing with your thinking, which we all do. If anybody's ever worried, you were forecasting a future. It just wasn't a good one. If you have an anxiety problem at some level, consciously or subconsciously, you're forecasting some level of disaster coming your way.
Yep.
So it's something that we all naturally do. So one of the things that I will do is when it comes to personal change, let's say, what did I say? 67%, 68%, they want to improve their health.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple different ways you can do this, but you cannot do it without forecasting, and forecasting in a way that touches you at an emotional level, either in the pursuit of pleasure or the avoidance of pain. Now, standard pop psychology out there says, and I teach it and agree with it, so I'm not contradicting it, but I want to nuance it. Yeah. Standard pop psychology out there says if you make a affirmation or resolution or something, don't make it about something negative, make it about something positive, because you're going to give your attention, whatever you give your attention to, it's going to grow, et cetera, and so on.
Yeah. I
don't totally agree with that, because negativity can be a really powerful motivator. It's just in how you use it. So if your goal is to, let's say quit smoking for anybody, then forecast a future on a ventilator, forecast a future on not being able to go anywhere without oxygen. Get some pictures of tar-filled lungs.
Yeah.
And put them up in front of your face. You see what I'm saying? Because or people say, my motivation is to lose weight. Well, no, your motivation needs to be healthy. I don't totally agree with that either. You can also forecast, instead of losing 25 pounds this year, gaining 25 or 50 pounds, and forecast what your life is going to be like then, having to buy a new wardrobe and add that up and put that amount of money there, and forecast all the negative things that are going to happen to you if you continue in this course of action, and look at those things so that your mind, that's going to affect you. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that you're mindful of, if I continue in this course of action, there's going to be a ton of pain down the road for me. Like future Aaron is going to have a really hard time. And if you can do both, where then you also forecast the positive, if I do this, then, I will, if I'm in a better financial shape, I'll be able to take more vacations with my family. So that's, for the person that you're more motivated towards family relationships than high achievement on the job. If you can think, well, if I can increase my income $10,000, we can take a dream vacation to Hawaii or whatever. I can use this to grow and nurture those relationships. And you put your focus on that thing. And so that's where some of these things like vision boards and stuff like that can really be helpful, because you're forecasting a future that hopefully is touching something in you that you say, okay, this is something I really want. Because if you don't really want it, you're not going to go after it.
Yep.
But by the same token, if you don't really want something, it's okay to say, I'm making what they call a quote unquote negative resolution. I'm going to stop doing this, or I'm going to quit this, or I'm going to quit that.
Yep.
Because I don't want that painful future. And sometimes that can even be more motivating than the positive part.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about this, right, if more people looked at, say, okay, you want to be more fit, lose weight, whatever, right? What are the consequences of gaining weight? And what are the consequences of being too heavy? You touched on one. You have to buy new clothes, right? Also, People don't think about this, right? That the more you weigh, the more wear and tear you put on your car, the more wear and tear you put on your furniture, on your bed, things like that. So again, if you tell yourself, okay, I'm doing this so that I don't create this additional problem,
Right.
that negative motivation can be very helpful. Another thing that I've learned is that you have to learn to make room for whatever it is that you want.
Hmm.
Like for example, I remember, um, and this was a Christian teaching, a word of faith teaching, that if you want a new car and you have a garage, but you have no place to park the car, you haven't created any room for the car.
Hmm.
But if you take the time to clean out a dedicated space, you're saying, okay, I'm going to get this new car. I'm so therefore I am going to make space for the car,
Hmm.
right? If you're going, you say, okay, I want to buy a new wardrobe, right? So losing weight is making room for that wardrobe. That's incentivizing you for that.
Hmm.
Uh, if you want to attract a spouse, you have to make basically you have to weed out the distractions that keep you from having a mate, because sometimes you may have toxic friends, you may have toxic habits,
Right.
you may have a toxic job, all of these things. So you have to look at all of these things and say, okay, if I want to create the energy that attracts a spouse, what do I need to make room for? So
Hmm.
that's another thing, that I think of in terms of resolutions. And the other thing too is I always go back to this one analogy, right? Because when I was training with my buddy Eric, who's a Navy SEAL, people like when you're climbing across a ladder bar, on monkey bars, right? In order for you to get to the next rung, you have to let go. You have to let go of one hand and then move to the next and grab. Let go and then move to the next one and grab. It's a constant tension of grasping and releasing. So you have to understand that there's a rhythm to achieving a goal, that
Hmm.
it involves grasping a thing but holding on to it loosely enough that you're able to let go to move forward to the next thing.
Hmm.
And that again, that feeds back into the whole ramp methodology, that in order to climb a ramp, basically you're having to ascend at an increasing rate as you're going further on the ramp until you hit the plateau. So the plateau is just simply the plateau. And that's the other thing, plateau. Stop thinking of the plateau as like a stopping point, or that it's a staying point, or that it's a long-term goal. The plateau is just simply the spot where the next ramp begins. And
Hmm.
always be thinking about the next ramp, because then you put yourself in a posture of continuous growth.
Hmm.
And that's the other thing. But let me just say one more thing before I kick it back to you, Aaron, is
Sure.
that I think that one of the big problems with goal setting is that we don't align our goal setting with our core values.
Right.
That we don't align with our why. And I always, like, for me, my entire life has always been about helping people. What can I do to help people be better students, be better athletes, be better sailors, soldiers, be better consultants? I've dedicated my entire life to helping people become the best authentic version of themselves.
Hmm.
So if I want to lose weight, right, then my weight loss must be aligned with my why. So now what I'm saying is that I'm not just losing weight because I want to be healthier. I'm not just losing weight because I want to be fitter, or that I want to look better in my clothes. I want to be better looking and all of that. I'm doing this because now I'm creating a map
Hmm.
by which someone else can achieve similar results. So now I've aligned my goal with my core value. I've aligned my what, or my how with my why.
Hmm.
And so I think that helps to supercharge your how, because your how is now aligned with your why. And
Yeah,
that's
no, it's a perfect illustration because you're taking something like that your value system, one of your core values is helping other people. So instead of, you know, if your goal is to lose weight or, get better fitness or whatever, if you can connect that to I'm trailblazing for to help other people. I can do it so I can show other people how to do it.
yeah,
Then that's exactly what I was saying about motivation. You have to be able to take whatever your goal is and fit it into and align it with whatever your core values are. And if you don't, you're not going to be successful. You're not going to be able to sustain because it's not just lack of motivation. And we've talked a lot. We talked last year. You kind of know what, my ideas for this year were and goals were for this year.
yeah,
Some of them I accomplished, some of them I didn't. Most of it I would say I didn't, but I did make progress. But I didn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish because of adversity.
mm,
It wasn't because of um, lack of motivation or lack of trying or lack of resolution on my part. It was because things just were more complicated
yeah.
to get to
Preach.
where I wanted to be. And I didn't get a lot of cooperation, from the systems that could have been in place around us to support us in what we were trying to accomplish. Um, so I don't want to go into because it's personal and involves, people that, it involves my family.
Right.
But so I don't lose heart, you know what I mean? And that continues, you set that ramp and it continues, that momentum, it continues, but you have to adjust. You have to
Yeah.
adjust on the fly as well, right?
Yeah.
Like if something happens that is opposition that you have no control over, you can't just snap your fingers and make that go away.
Right.
Or if, things can't happen for you as quickly as you want because of, various whatever, then you have to adjust and adapt to that and not get discouraged by it, not get defeated by it, not internalize it. So,
Mhm.
interesting study. People who achieve well on tests, let's just, because again, work at the university. So a lot of people test anxiety and tests are important to your grades and all that stuff. Or some people get out of school and they have to take a test like I did to get a license or something like that. So not being good at tests can be a real issue for people.
Yep.
But one of the interesting studies that came out was that, two people, one a high achiever and one a low achiever, go in and take the same test and flunk the test.
Mm.
The high achievers come out and say, that professor did not prepare us well enough for that test.
Yeah.
The information that was in the textbook didn't match the questions on the test. The test itself was harder than I thought it was going to be, whatever. But they're attributing failure to these external circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
High achievers come out of there. I mean, sorry, that's the high achiever. The low achiever comes out and says, I suck. I guess I didn't study as much. I wasn't able to learn the information. See what I'm saying? Now, take the same two people
Mm-hmm.
and have them go in and have them score high on that test. The high achiever comes out and says, I knew I could do that. I knew if I studied this way that I would get it. I knew I was smart enough or whatever. I was prepared enough. I was studied enough.
Yeah.
Whatever. Low achiever comes out. What's the low achiever say? That test was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
Mm.
So what's interesting is like your self-concept in this. High achievers, when things don't go well, they'll look for the obstacles and how they can adapt to them, believing that they can adjust or overcome them. And then when things go well, they take credit for it.
Mm.
And I know that this can sound like, an egotistical jerk. I mean, there are people that take that to an extreme, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
our current, not current, geez, sorry, our former
Previous, the former guy.
was out, bragging about how his 10-second cameo in Home Alone 2 made the movie a huge success. So that's on the extreme end of it. But as a general rule, people who accomplish stuff, they will blame. It's called how we attribute cause. Their attributions to failure will be to the obstacles that they were facing, whereas in success, their attributions will be to their personal efforts.
Right.
Person who really oftentimes is stuck in shame or doesn't achieve as well, they will attribute their successes to factors outside of themselves, and they'll attribute their failures to shortcomings within themselves. And we somehow think that's a virtue in our culture.
Right.
Like, give the credit everywhere else and to everybody else, and don't take it for yourself. But when you screw up, make sure you own it.
Yeah.
Like, that is programming you to suck.
Yeah. I always tell my kids, I said, own your shit.
Mm-hmm.
Own your shit. If you make a mistake, you own it, right? But own your shit works. It's a bidirectional thing, right?
Yep.
Own your mistakes, but own your successes. That if you succeeded because you put in the work. You
Right.
succeeded because you made the effort. You succeeded because you planned, right? It's not. You didn't luck up on something. You're not in imposter syndrome and all of that. That you've actually you're there because you're supposed to be there. But I want to change gears on something real quick
Sure.
because in America, in the United States, we are into this exceptionalism thing, this individual exceptionalism, and one of the things that I think that could help people achieve success in terms of New Year's resolutions, goal setting, milestone building, ramping, and so on and so forth, is that if you make it a team sport,
Yeah.
in other words, you find others that have like goals, or they may not be like goals, but let's say you happen to be good at something that someone else isn't good at.
Right.
And so you partner with that person. So you're helping them achieve their goals, but at the same time, you have a purview into their lives because they might be good at something that you're not. And that helps you get better. I
Right.
think that one of the things, and Aaron, I think this is one of the things that makes you and I work so well is the whole the team spirit of what we do
Right.
because you help elevate me where I'm weak or where I may have a blind spot and you help me see things. And that makes me a better person. But the thing is, you have to, and I'm on the record of saying this. I think the humility is overrated. However, that being said, that that if you humble yourself to the degree that you say, okay, I know I don't know everything. I don't have the handle on everything. So these things that I don't have a handle on, I'm going to defer to someone else who I know is better at this, right? So one of the things, like this year was an extraordinary year for me on so many different levels, but one of them, I got reconnected with my best martial arts seafood in my life, right? And his thing was always, okay, if you did this, how well do you think you did? Grade yourself. Okay. Now, when you grade yourself, you say, okay, in what way could I have done this better? And what he was really big on was continuous improvement.
Yeah.
That you're constantly finding ways to make yourself better at the thing that you're doing, right? And one of the things that Brad did in the Warriors way, what he did is he made us accountable to one another, right? So if we were working on a form or a template, right? As far as like some movement, he would say, okay, what you need to do is you need to partner up with these three guys, and you guys need to talk about what you're doing when you're doing this. Are you thinking about this? Are you flowing with it? Are you overthinking it? Are you self-deprecating? What are you doing, right? And submitting yourself to the critique of others, right? And in doing that, that helped me to grow and to become a better martial artist.
Mhm.
So if we take this and say, okay, there are some things that I know I do well on my own, but those things that I don't do well on my own, again, to thine own self be true, right?
Mhm.
Where I'm not good at something, let me submit to the authority or the understanding of someone else who does. So again, to give you a shout out, right? That as I was going into my path away from Christianity, and I was really on the path to materialism. That's where I was headed. And I don't know if I think probably you saw that because you were speaking things into my life and saying, okay, there's more to it than that, right? So have you considered this? And you would put things in front of me that caused me to review my own thinking, right? And that caused me to give consideration to something that I hadn't, which in turn made me a better scientist, a better metaphysician, a better mystic. Okay, and so for that I'm grateful. But that's the thing, you have to give things over to or understand what your own limitations are. And team building. I always say that life is a team sport. So you have to find other teammates who are going to help you, find your blind spots, help you overcome your obstacles and things like that so that you can have these breakthroughs. Because that's the interesting thing about the ramp, right? You're on the ramp and that's great, but the ramp is great when you know it's linear. But what happens when someone rolls a boulder at you down the ramp? That happens. Life will throw you, they'll throw you curveballs. But let me say this. The last thing I'm gonna say, that people say, oh well, life just threw me a curveball. If you've ever played baseball, you know that when you're in the batter's box, that no matter what is being thrown at you, at some point you've got to take a swing, right? And so that means sometimes taking a swing at a curveball or a changeup or a knuckleball or a screwball, and you're gonna have to hit the fucking ball, right? And that's the challenge, is that when someone rolls a boulder down the ramp, what do you do? If someone throws you a curveball, what do you do? If someone hands you lemons, what do you do? You have, and so sometimes you'll have the answer yourself, and that's great. But when you don't have the answer, that's where the team concept comes in,
Mhm.
right? So anyway,
Yeah.
that's
I,
what I'll say.
one of the things we've talked about, and I hope it's okay, I'm airing this. I don't think it's a big deal, but we talked about a while back putting together something, some kind of content on friendship building and being relatable.
Yep.
I think that would be really important because I don't think we can achieve our best for sure if we don't have the right kind of people in our lives. And
Preach.
being able to know how to be relatable with people is so important to that team concept and process, right? Like you've got to know how to navigate relationships in order to have the kind of people in your life that can help you and support you in the
Yep.
things that you want to accomplish. And and that's a skill. But by the end of the day, I mean, some people are just born with more empathy and more emotional intelligence and social intelligence, but at the end of the day, it's easier for them to apply those skills to their relationships. They just come by it naturally, like somebody
Let,
who's
let me throw
you,
something at you real quick. Let me interject something because I saw this just this week. I think that it's in Finland that they teach empathy as a school subject in public
yeah,
schools.
yeah. Our schools, we still got to do one on the school system here in America, but yeah. So I think that'd be something good for us to do because I hear what you're saying, and I'm thinking about our relationship and we've never gotten it twisted. Like we
Yeah,
can disagree about stuff, we can talk about stuff, we can open up, but it's just, it never gets twisted. And there are some people that I've tried to relate to, former pastors and whatever, and they just get it twisted in a heartbeat and there's no untwisting it. Like they're just
right.
hell bent on misunderstanding you. And yeah, I look at those people and they're not relatable. They may be really great presenters of information, but nobody's really relating with them because they're not relatable. They don't put themselves out in any kind of a relatable way, and that comes across in their
Absolutely.
their public persona, and speaking from experience, it comes
Private.
across in their private as well. so being able to receive feedback, but also knowing how to give feedback and not have to. At no point ever did I think, oh my God, I've got to make Derrick think like me. If anything, I'm thinking maybe I should be thinking like Derrick. You know, you know what I mean?
No, that cuts both ways, bro.
But that's just, because I do think that's so important. But I think there are so many people, I can't help but have empathy, talking about empathy for people that just haven't been able to, for whatever reason, develop those kinds of relationships in their lives where they could get real, authentic feedback that's going to be helpful. And I hate to quote a Bible verse, but iron sharpening iron. There's a reality to that in people's lives and relationships with people. And so, when you were talking, it just made me think about that. I think that would be something that would be real great value. And I think it's overlooked, sometimes. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was saying, think about that. Let's say from an overarching New Year's resolution perspective, if everybody just said to themselves, "What can I do to be more relatable?" In other words, that people when they speak to me, that they understand where I'm coming from. That I'm projecting something that's fairly easy to digest. Because there are some people that they get so heady that people can't relate to them because they say, "Oh, well, this guy thinks he's too smart," or he thinks he's too, he's too spiritual or whatever, right? What is it? How can we make ourselves more relatable? And this is like really kind of a tangent topic, but I think that part of the thing, like if we say that goal setting or resolutions is a team sport, right? You can't make it a team sport if you're unrelatable.
Right.
So let's hang our hat there for just a second and say, what kind of things can I resolve to do to be more relatable? Because in doing this, watch this. For all of you that are trying to build a goal or to create a goal and to try to achieve something, to try to change something, right? Let's just say that you're able to attract the kind of energy that will bring people to you, that will help facilitate the change. In other words, they'll grease the skids or they'll push you up the ramp, right? How do you what kind of things can we do individually, Aaron, individually, that we could do to help attract the kind of team that we need to help us achieve the goals that we're trying to achieve?
Yeah. I don't even have to think about it. For me, we need to be careful. And again, this has to be nuanced. We need to be careful about how many people in our lives or how many of our relationships are about grievances. Are we relating around grievances? Are we always having grievances with other people? Like, one of the worst things that can happen to a person, and I mean this sincerely,
Mhm.
is to have a grievance. And this has happened to me because I had a lot of people in my life that would take my side just because they liked me or whatever. And so I might air a grievance about a problem that I'm having with somebody, or a grievance about government's not treating us right, or a grievance about, you name it. And it can be anything, right? And studies show, actually, and this is why therapy can be bad for you. Because if all you ever do is go into your therapist and air your grievances, the truth is it pours gas on the fire. And so you really got to look at your relationships and say, am I getting a charge? Like, am I relating with this person or this group of people because we just sit around and air our grievances and make everybody feel better about the situation that they're in, so as to sort of create a victim mentality
Mm.
Right of us. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Um, so and this is where I said it has to be nuanced. I mean, you don't want somebody that's trying to fix you either. There are times, this is one of the skills. There's times when somebody's airing their grievance that you need to say that really sucks. And there are times we need to have people that we air our grievances to. But when
Yep.
we go on the circuit, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah. The
when, we
hamster
go on the
wheel.
when we go on the no, what I'm talking about, like when we go on the preaching circuit.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm going to air my grievance here. 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 That person, I didn't get any contact, but this person over here really gave me what I wanted. So I'm going to come back to them and I'm going to air some more grievances. Like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so to be able to air your grievances with someone that has that balance, and this is something you do really, really well, Derrick, to have that balance between I hear what you're saying and I feel for you, and yet you haven't looked at it from this more positive perspective, or you haven't thought about it this way, or you see what I'm saying? And so it's not this, oh, woe is you. Life is so hard. Um, you know, that sucks. Listen to what happened to me too. Like we have a little support group, going
Yeah.
on. That's why I quit the religious trauma recovery page. I mean, there's like 4,000 or 5,000 people on that page right now. I don't care.
Yeah.
And because it just became a platform where people would just continually air their grievances. And if you tried to provide any kind of solution oriented thinking, you'd get crucified for it. So there has to be that balance. You see what I'm saying? So the number one thing I would say is you have to break your addiction to grievances, and you may have to cut some people out of your life that you bond your whole bond in your life,
Yeah.
or 80% of it is bitching and moaning.
Trauma bonding.
Yeah.
Yep. And this is the thing that I've said. Like, first of all, when I try to be relatable in such a way that people can talk to me, right? That I want to be approachable, and but here's the thing about that is that my approachability depends on your intellectual honesty. Because if you're intellectually honest, like there's some people that have legitimate questions and they want legitimate answers, and they come to you because, hey, I'm really curious as to how you process this, right? But it's like there are some people that they come to you there and they're very disingenuous, and they come to you with the intent of trying to trip you up, right? And they're not trying to be part of your team. What they're trying to do is they're trying to figure out a way how to tear you down. And you have to learn how to discern between the two of those, because you can wind up inviting someone in who you think has your best interests at heart, but they don't, you know. And again, this is another thing we talked about, like negative people. Like, so you go into the new year and you say, okay, as a goal, I'm going to eliminate the negative people from my life. Okay, so there are some people who are legitimately negative. They have no vested interest in seeing you succeed, right? But then there are some people that they're saying, have you thought about this? Have you considered this? And when they do this, it's sort of it could be a nuisance initially until you actually follow it up. And so my case study in that is my buddy Simon Yap. You know, Simon is like, okay, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? And here's the thing about Simon is that Simon is, he's patient to a point, but once you come at him and like, okay, Simon, you're just full of shit. Well, now Simon's gonna unload both barrels on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
but that's his character, and I don't fault that, because he's actually good at what he does. But when you look at people in your life, are they doing something that ultimately is going to build you? Are they, what you were saying, iron sharpening iron? Are they really sharpening you, or are they just bludgeoning you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's the thing. You have to learn how to discern between the two of those, whether this is whether this is helpful or whether this is harmful, whether this is sharpening or whether this is bludgeoning, whether this is a legitimate question, or is it a critique, or is it a criticism, right? And you have to learn how to discern between the two of those, because in the course of your team building, basically, Okay, I'm going to get into something a little heady here. Y'all bear with me, right? If you go back and look at, there's a movie called Moneyball, right, with Brad Pitt in it, and basically it tells the story about how the Oakland A's took a statistical approach to drafting players. And what they did is they created such a successful model that basically every major league franchise has embodied this. So just because somebody is the most talented guy in the pool doesn't mean he's going to be the best draft pick. It generates some excitement, but what it does is that you might wind up getting a high price dud, right? And what was the guy's name? God,
Yeah, I can't
it was
remember.
a quarterback, Todd Marinovich, right?
Oh, yeah.
This guy was supposed to be like the next Joe Montana. He was the second coming of football Jesus, right? And he was a bust. He was a complete bust. Um, and so again, you have to apply some critical thinking to all of this. Not just the person who is giving you the most encouragement, not just the person who is the most edifying, not just the person who is kindest to you, but sometimes you need some people who are going to provide some gentle abrasion.
Hmm.
I, the key word here is gentle. It's like basically the scrubby part of a sponge, you know, not sandpaper. But you need that. And you have to bring that in your team. But let me circle back into New Year's resolutions, because again, a couple of things. One, goal setting, right? Number two, it's a team sport. Number three, core values, right? And then number four, um, you know, the people around you, right? You have to factor in all these things and say, okay, this is going to create a holistic approach to my achieving some meaningful goal
Hmm.
in the new year, or and again, let's just say this: don't get hung up on New Year, right? You can actually set new goals on June the 20th.
Hmm.
You don't have to wait for January the 1st. You can set it on March the 3rd. It doesn't have to be New Year's. And like you said, if you set a goal for New Year's and you don't get to it till March, okay, well, first of all, don't beat yourself up over that.
Right.
You know, understand that life happens. You have to make adjustments, and if you make the adjustments, things are going to be okay.
Hmm.
They're
Yeah.
going to be okay. So anyway,
Yeah. No, good stuff, man. Good stuff. One thing I'll say, since most people set resolutions, last thing I'll say, since most people set their resolutions, lose weight, get in shape, et cetera, and so on. And oftentimes gyms are offering cheaper memberships this time of year.
yep.
What I would say to all of you, as a former, I know it's hard to believe, well, it shouldn't be hard to believe looking at the amazing specimen I am right now, but former gym rat. I mean, I would spend hours and hours and hours a week in the gym, and I could for years, and I could tell you that get your membership, well, it's cheap or whatever, but do not go to the gym until February 1st, or that first week in February, because if you go the first week in January,
Everybody's in there.
you're going to
Yep.
absolutely hate it, because you're going to have everybody else like you that has made New Year's resolutions
Yep. And you'll
just
stop.
for the first week, the first 2 weeks, the first 3 weeks. You're going to be waiting for machines. It's going to be stinky. You're going to be dealing with rude people. You're not going to like it, and you're not going to want to go back. So that would be my advice for that group of people out there, and that's where I will land the plane for my part.
Oh man, and I think that I've already said, what I'm going to say. But basically, again, make sure that when you make a goal, start small and ramp up. That if I can't give you any more useful advice than that, that's it.
I agree. I agree. I think that's really wise advice.
Yep.
You want to look at some comments,
Yeah,
or
let's look at some comments real quick, man. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Joe Machuda said, "If I ever set a New Year's resolution, I cannot remember. I don't do it and never have. Hey, somebody here was flirting with one of us, man.
Yeah, I saw that. I think that's a bot.
Yeah, it's a bot. But I always enjoy what you share here on Facebook, but we're not friends yet. I've tried several times to send you a friend request, but it's not going through. I'm like, really? Okay, let's make a New Year's resolution and not send out bullshit.
Joe says, I worked as a sales associate for 24-hour fitness back in California 18 years ago, and January was our Black Friday. So
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he posted that before I mentioned that. But
yeah.
yeah, but definitely just stay away for a month. They'll all quit, and then you'll have a better experience. Again, Joe says resolutions on the fly make sense. Picking a specific time of year to do it is what I question.
Bingo. Bingo.
Yep.
And you don't have to wait till New Year's to make a resolution. You can make a resolution and do it tomorrow.
I see the leader of our fan club, blessed be he, is on.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and actually, he or she, I'm not really sure, but not being a complete dick today. So maybe that's his or her New Year's resolution.
Or we've just gotten callous to it. I don't know.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. Katie Jane says it should be a school subject. Fun fact. So I'm sure that's regarding empathy being taught
Yep.
as a topic.
Yeah. But blessed be he said, core values come from the core, the light and the life within you. Stay on the path. I completely agree with you there.
C. Rodriguez says it's called processing. So I assume that was made about the time I was talking about grievances versus. So yeah, so you want somebody you can process with, but it's solution oriented.
Yep.
And there's a difference. There's a difference between talking to someone, having them empathize with you, but they're solution oriented versus we're just hanging around a bunch of people that were grievance oriented, and we make each other feel better about our lack of success by maintaining our excuses and grievances and stuff like that. So yeah. All right.
That's pretty much it, man.
Yep.
So as I mentioned, I'm spending New Year's in paradise. So I am absolutely thrilled. I'm hoping that you're enjoying your slice of paradise, Aaron.
I do have to say something. I've talked about moving for a long time, and that was one of the things that I wanted to get accomplished that I didn't. But I heard on the radio today, Denver radio, that the average temperature, when you take all our temperatures for every day of the year, the average temperature here is 51 degrees.
Mm.
And as someone who generally doesn't like the cold, what the hell am I doing in a place where the average temperature is 51 degrees?
Come south, young man. Come south.
So no, I can't say is that I'm in paradise, but I am embracing the Colorado weather this year. I'm not resenting it or resisting it. I'm going with it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes you just have to get on that board and ride that wave, man. Sometimes that's all.
I'm adapting and adjusting. Instead of hating it, I'm just like, okay, it is what it is. I'm good.
Hey, the good news is Lauren Boebert is changing districts.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I'm glad she's going to be out of ours, but I know where she's going, and she's just going to be back in Congress. So I think we would have beat her this time around if she'd have stayed, and obviously she thought that too. So yeah, whatever. This next year is going to be crazy.
It is, but you know what though? It's also going to be great. You know what? I'm looking forward to 2024 being the best year of my life.
That's a great attitude.
Yep.
I think I'll join you in that. I'll join you.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot of stuff to do. The things that we didn't accomplish this year. Okay, so we table them until next year. But we're getting close. We're getting close. We actually, I won't. There are things that we had talked about that we were doing together that we didn't necessarily accomplish, but we moved the needle toward them. So that's good. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we failed on our planning and follow up, and that's mostly on me because last year was crazy. Last
Dude,
year was great.
listen, my year was really funky like that, and you know, basically until August, my my whole year was pretty much headed down the shitter,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it got really fantastic. So,
Well, I'm going to ride that positive wave with you. So, all
all right,
right. Love you, Derrick. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the time. And I think this is another good, really good episode. I'll go
yeah,
back and listen to this one myself just for
yeah,
motivation and
absolutely,
ideas.
yeah, yeah. We need to, you know, go through this and make some lists, do some lists and some goal building, um, and then we need to tie into our network, man, and do some team building.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Sounds good. All right, everybody. Thank you for coming to our TED Talk, growing in real time with us. And love you guys. Happy New Year to all of you. I see that several of you are wishing us Happy New Year. Right back to everyone. Let's make this year, what'd you say, Derrick, the best year of our lives?
Best year of our lives.
Yeah, let's
Love
do
you,
it.
Aaron. Happy New Year to you, man. All
All
right.
right.
Love you
Okay.
guys and have a happy new year.